Pull up a chair. Let's have a sit down. This thing of ours, America, it's not what they tell you in the history books. The real story happens in back rooms, over whiskey and a handshake. The guys at the top, the real capos, run the show. It's a family business, built on money and control. And when a president gets in the way of the money, let's just say, heroes don't last long in this business. There are rules to this game, unwritten rules. You follow them, you get rich, you break them, you get buried. It's simple. The number one rule, you don't touch the money. The guys up top, the international bankers, the wise guys, they have a monopoly. They lend money to the government, and the government pays them back with interest. Interest paid by the taxpayers, the schmucks working 9 to 5. It's the perfect scam. They create money out of thin air, lend it out, and get real wealth in return. It's a beautiful, beautiful machine. And the President of the United States, his job is to keep that machine humming. The machine is a business empire. It's not about patriotism, it's about capital, making money. Every war, every crisis, every boom and bust, it's all part of the business plan. They need a steady hand on the tiller, a guy who understands how things work, a guy who won't rock the boat. The president is the CEO, but the bankers are the board of directors. They put him there, and they can take him out. It's nothing personal, you understand. It's just business. If a president starts getting in the way of profits, he becomes a liability. And liabilities have to be dealt with, swiftly. So what happens when a president decides he doesn't want to play by their rules? What happens when he thinks the government should serve the people, not the bankers? He gets a visit, a warning, maybe a little trouble in the stock market, maybe a scandal in the newspapers. They send a message. They tell him, hey pal, you're getting out of line. Straighten up and fly right. Most of them get the message. They see the writing on the wall and fall back in line. They understand who's really in charge. They choose a long life over a short, glorious one. But some guys, they don't listen. They're hard-headed. They got principles. They think they can change the system from the inside. They think the title of president makes them the boss. These are the guys who end up with a problem. A big problem. They become a threat to the entire operation. And when you threaten the family's business, there's only one way that ends. You get made an example of. You become a ghost story told to the next guy who gets a bright idea. It's a system of control, built on fear and enforced with precision. What's a bright idea? It's any idea the guys at the top didn't approve. It's any move that's bad for their business. And the number one, absolute top of the list bright idea is messing with the money supply. Trying to print your own currency. Trying to go back to a gold standard without their permission. That's a cardinal sin. It's like trying to set up your own casino on their turf. It's a declaration of war. You're telling the family that you don't need them anymore. And that, my friend, is a mistake you only get to make once. It's the fastest way to land yourself sleeping with the fishes. Think about it. If the government can print its own money, debt-free, what happens to the bankers? Their whole racket goes up in smoke. No more lending to the government at interest. No more controlling the economy by tightening or loosening the money supply. They lose their power. They lose their empire. It's an existential threat. So when a president starts talking about issuing his own notes, his own greenbacks, alarm bells start ringing in the highest towers of finance. The capos get together for a sit-down. They weigh the pros and cons. And they decide the guy has to go. We've seen it happen. 3 times. 3 acting American presidents who expressed serious concerns about a central bank running the show. 3 presidents who thought about taking back the power to create money for the people. Abraham Lincoln, James A. Garfield, John F. Kennedy. What do they all have in common? They all got whacked, assassinated. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. But in our line of work, there are no coincidences. It's a strange pattern, isn't it? A pattern that casts more than a shadow of reasonable doubt. It points to a single group with the motive and the means. Who else could pull it off? Who else has the power, the influence inside and outside the government to make a president disappear and then control the story? To cover it up so well that for 100 years, People are still arguing about who did it. You need muscle, but you also need brains. You need shooters, but you also need friends in high places. You need to control the cops, the press, the investigation. Only one crew has that kind of reach. The same crew that profits when a president who challenges them is taken off the board. It's a business model. 4 presidents, Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, Kennedy, all taken out while in office. Each one got in the way of business, and each was removed from the board. Reagan got a warning shot. The message? We can get to you anytime. The real question isn't who pulled the trigger, but who benefits, and who's really in control. Let's start at the top of the hit list. Honest Abe, the guy on the $5 bill. They call him the Great Emancipator, the man who saved the Union. But Lincoln saw the real game. Bankers pulling strings, trying to profit off a divided America. He refused their deals, wouldn't sell out the country. That decision? It was his death warrant. He just didn't know it yet. Lincoln's big idea? The greenback. Money printed by the U.S. Treasury, not borrowed from bankers. Debt-free, backed only by the nation's word, it funded the war and paid the troops. The bankers saw it as a revolution, a threat to their global racket. They fought back, calling greenbacks worthless, trying to crash them with gold manipulation. But Lincoln held firm. The greenback worked, proving a government could control its own money. Lincoln wanted to make it permanent, a future of prosperity, free from banker control. That was too much. The experiment had to be stopped, and so did Lincoln. The message? No one, not even the president, prints money but the family. Lincoln doubled down, allying with Russia's Tsar, another enemy of the bankers. Russian fleets in U.S. harbors warned Britain and France, "Stay out or face Russia." This checkmated the bankers' plans to break the Union blockade. Lincoln had now committed 2 sins, printing money and teaming up with their rival. He was out of their control, threatening their world order. The decision was made. Lincoln was too dangerous to the family's business. He'd beaten them at their own game, and in this world, that means you pay the price. The cost of his bright ideas was about to come due. The war ended, but Lincoln's plans for peace and unity threatened the bankers' profits. They needed him gone. Enter John Wilkes Booth, a perfect fall guy. The hit was a professional job, targeting Lincoln and other leaders to throw the nation into chaos. Booth pulled the trigger at Ford's Theater. Lincoln was dead, and so was the greenback. The new president caved. Debt-free money vanished. The bankers' system returned, their power restored. Lincoln's legacy was buried with him. The message was clear. This is our business, and we'll kill to protect it. No president is untouchable. After Lincoln, presidents played by the rules until James Garfield. Garfield was a reformer, not a puppet. He saw the corruption, the bankers' grip on power. He wanted to end the spoils system and clean up government. That made him a problem, a risk to the family's control. He threatened their patronage network, their influence over money and politics. The old-timers remembered Lincoln. They wouldn't let history repeat. Garfield was watched, flagged, and marked as a threat. The family waited for him to cross the line. Garfield didn't just talk reform, he targeted the bankers' profits. He planned to refinance Civil War bonds, cutting their interest windfall. For every dollar saved, the bankers lost out. Then Garfield spoke the unspeakable. Whoever controls the volume of money is master of all industry and commerce. He understood the real power and threatened to take it back. That was the red line. He wasn't just a reformer, he was a revolutionary. The sit-down changed. It was no longer if, but when to take him out. Garfield had signed his own death warrant. To control the money, you have to control the treasury. The family always made sure their guy was in charge, until Garfield. Roscoe Conkling, the New York boss, expected to run the show. But Garfield refused. He picked his own man for treasury, defying the machine. It was a street fight for control. Garfield was winning, and that made him dangerous. When you can't control a man, you have to eliminate him. The contract was out on Garfield. But you can't just whack a president. You need a story, you need a patsy. They found Charles J. Guiteau, a failed lawyer, a nobody, the perfect fall guy. Was he just a lone nut, or a tool, wound up and pointed in the right direction? On July 2, 1881, Guiteau shot Garfield at a train station. The hit was a success. After the Garfield hit, business was booming. The bosses in the White House knew the score. Then came McKinley, backed by big money, a gold bug, good for business. He signed the Gold Standard Act, handed the keys to the bankers, and kept the shareholders happy. But power changes a man. McKinley started to wonder if the game was rigged, and thought about changing the rules. By 1901, McKinley was changing, speaking out against trusts and monopolies, worrying his powerful backers. Their man in the White House was getting a conscience, threatening the system built on unchecked corporate power. Lurking in the background was his vice president, Theodore Roosevelt, a wild card, ready to shake things up. McKinley was becoming a roadblock, and roadblocks get removed. McKinley didn't just start thinking about changing things at home. He started changing his mind about how America did business with the rest of the world. He had been a big supporter of high protectionist tariffs. These tariffs were like a wall, keeping foreign goods out and allowing the American industrial trusts to operate without competition. It was a sweet racket for the family's corporate interests. They could charge whatever they wanted, and the American consumer had no other choice but to pay. It was a guaranteed profit machine, and McKinley had been the one keeping it running. But then, he decided to open the door. In what would be his final speech, McKinley laid out a new vision. He started talking about reciprocity, free trade. He said the time had come to lower the walls, to open up commerce with other nations. He said, commercial wars are unprofitable. Reciprocity treaties are in harmony with the spirit of the times. Measures of retaliation are not. This was a complete 180. He was turning his back on the very policy that had made his industrialist backers so rich. He was threatening to end their protected racket. He was proposing a new way of doing business, one based on open competition, not closed monopolies. This was a major betrayal. The industrial trusts, which relied on those high tariffs to maintain their dominance, saw this as a declaration of war. McKinley was about to pull the rug out from under them. Their guaranteed profits were about to disappear. He was no longer their guy. He was a traitor to the cause. He was a man with a dangerous, bright idea that threatened to upend their entire business model. The guys who ran the steel, oil, and railroad trusts were not the kind of men you double-crossed. They had built their empires on being ruthless, and now the president they had put in power was turning on them. So you have a president who is starting to talk about breaking up monopolies at home, and at the same time, he's talking about ending the protectionist policies that guarantee their profits. He's hitting them from both sides. He's becoming a bigger threat by the day. The family, the commission of bankers and industrialists, they have a sit-down. This guy, McKinley, he's gone rogue. He's popular with the people, so they can't just remove him politically. He's messing with the money, and he's messing with the rackets. The decision is made. The contract is put out. He has to go. They just need another patsy to take the fall. In Buffalo, 1901, Leon Czolgosz, a self-proclaimed anarchist, shot President McKinley at the Pan American Exposition. The papers blamed a lone madman, but he was just a pawn. McKinley died, and the wild card, Theodore Roosevelt, took the presidency. The stage was set for the financier's biggest prize, the Federal Reserve. After the family got their Federal Reserve in 1913, they ran the country. Presidents came and went, but the White House was just a branch office. Then JFK arrived, a young, charismatic outsider with his own power. He challenged the old family, saw the Federal Reserve as a scam, and wanted to change the game. But in this business, there's only one family at the top, and they don't share power. In June 1963, Kennedy signed Executive Order 1110. It gave the Treasury power to issue silver-backed money, bypassing the Federal Reserve. It was a direct threat to the bankers' monopoly. The order was a declaration of war. Some say it became his death warrant. Kennedy wasn't just messing with their money machine, he was threatening their biggest earner, war. He talked peace, tried to end the Cold War, and planned to pull out of Vietnam. That meant killing the war economy, and the family, bankers, industrialists, generals, couldn't accept it. United against him, they demanded the biggest hit in the family's history. The hit had to be big, public, messy. Dallas, Texas, November 22, 1963. The perfect location, a kill zone, a turkey shoot, shooters from multiple angles. The patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald, a perfect fall guy. Kennedy caught in a crossfire. The final fatal shot, brutal, surgical. The most professional cleanup in history. Oswald silenced by Jack Ruby. The Warren Commission sold the lone nut story. Johnson escalated the Vietnam War. The Federal Reserve's power restored. The account was closed. After Dallas, presidents knew the rules. The family ran things smooth until Reagan arrived. Reagan, the Hollywood cowboy, wasn't from the usual machine. He played his own role. He brought new ideas, supply-side economics, talk of gold, challenging the order. Popular, unpredictable, he threatened the family's power. So, they sent a reminder. Who really runs the show? On March 30, 1981, outside the Hilton Hotel, Reagan was shot. Chaos erupted. They said it was a lone nut, but it was a message, a warning shot, a ricochet, an inch from his heart. Afterward, talk of monetary reform vanished. The family's power stayed absolute. Reagan got the message and played his part. The ledger is never closed. Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, Kennedy, presidents who tried to change the game, all ended up on the wrong side of a bullet. In our world, nothing is random. Everything is connected, protected by those who profit from war and debt. There's always room for another name. It's just business, nothing personal. So what's the takeaway from this little sit-down? It's that the country you think you live in is a stage, a grand theater. And the presidents are just the leading men for a season. But the producers, the guys who finance the whole show, they never change. They are the international banking family, the commission that has been running this racket since 1776. Their secret destiny for America is not about freedom or democracy. It's about capital. It's about owning the whole damn world. And they have been wildly successful. Their business is a masterpiece of control, built on the simple idea that if you own the money, you own everything. This dark, Gothic tape of American history shows us the price of defiance. It's a story of bright ideas and the darkness that snuffs them out. Every time a leader stood up and tried to reclaim the power for the people, the system corrected itself. Violently. The hits on these presidents were not acts of chaos. They were acts of order. They were the system preserving itself. They were a brutal form of corporate governance. When a CEO gets out of line and threatens the entire corporation, the board of directors removes him. In this business, the removal is just a little more permanent. This is the world you live in. A world where the real power is invisible, held by a few men who answer to no one. They have built an empire on debt and control, and they have protected it with the efficiency of a seasoned hitman. The story of these presidents is the story of the few who dared to look behind the curtain. They saw the machine for what it was and tried to break it. And for their courage, they were fed to the machine. Their stories serve as a warning, a chilling reminder that the house always wins. Because the house owns the table, the cards, and the guy who deals them. So next time you hear about a lone gunman, a tragic event, a political mystery, remember this talk. Remember the rules of the game. Ask yourself the question they don't want you to ask. Who benefits? Whose business is better off now that this guy is gone? Follow the money. It always leads back to the same place. It leads back to the family. Because this thing of ours, this America, it's their business. It always has been. And as far as they're concerned, it always will be. The family is forever. Now this sit down is over. Go about your business.